This meeting of the Littleton Licensing Authority will come to order. Will the city clerk call the roll, please?
Authority Member Bradish.
Present.
Authority Member Gunya.
Here.
Authority Member Odell.
Here.
Authority Member Cole.
Here.
Authority Member Mather. Here. Authority Member Levere.
Here.
Authority Member Peterson.
Thank you. Next item of business is approval of tonight's agenda. Everyone's had a chance to review the agenda.
I'll make a motion agenda be approved as submitted. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Next item is approval of the minutes of our last meeting held on May 8th. Anyone have any modifications or questions about the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the meetings. The minutes
Second
of the
motion.
meeting.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? No. Motion carried. Next item of business will be consideration of applications and requests for liquor licenses. Item number 8A, Lotus Restaurant Group II, LLC, doing business as Rice Bistro and Sushi, 7301 South Santa Fe Drive, number 410. This is a new application. Do we have exhibits that we need to approve? Yes, we do.
Exhibits A through H, I would ask for a motion to admit those into the record.
I'll move we submit, is it A through H?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Who's first?
The applicant, come forward and
You want to proceed? Either one or both. It's more to marry, yes.
Everybody gets their chance.
Good, thank you. All right. Well, I'm Daniel Wong, and this is Michael Wong, and we're both part of Lotus Restaurant Group, 2 LLC. This will be our second restaurant. We actually have a current restaurant right now in Greenwood Village. We've been operating since 2007, fall of 2007. And it is it's the same concept, same menu, so same style of business that we're doing. It is a full service restaurant, an Asian bistro that focuses highly on Chinese cuisine as well as sushi. But we also have a big emphasis on beverage to complement the meal as well. So we have a very extensive wine list, a nice full bar, and a great sake offering as well as a beer offering. So we're very versed in the alcohol side of things for our business. So, and we're here to apply for the liquor license and make sure everything is okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, let me ask a couple questions, Ned. There are 4 people involved with it? Is that?
Yes. Yes.
So, who's the actual owner? You're Daniel?
I am. I'm the majority owner.
Okay, you're the majority owner.
And then my wife is also...
Is a minority owner?
Yes, correct.
And then Michael's your brother. And then Thomas is the other brother.
Yes.
Okay. Who's going to manage it?
Michael will be managing that.
You'll be managing it. Okay. And can you tell us what experience you have, particularly related to managing a establishment that serves alcohol?
Yeah, actually, my background actually is in finance, but I've come along, we've grown up in the restaurant industry, our business. Our parents were restaurateurs, I guess, is what you would call it, and so we kind of grew up in the restaurant industry through that way. My brother Dan, obviously, he went to school for restaurant resort management, and then we opened the first Rice Bistro in fall of 2007, and so I had a limited management stake in it at the time, and then as time has gone on, it's kind of grown. So.
Have you had any training in alcohol distribution or serving over there?
Yes, do tips training.
Did take training.
And as well as Dan, actually looks like my older brother, but he's young.
Have all four of you? Okay. So you both have taken tip training?
Yes.
Okay. How many people do you estimate you employ?
Probably about like 45.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Roughly
you.
about 45 employees for that new restaurant.
That's good
And
staff.
it's kind of a lot of part-time people that are through that, hostesses, things like that, It's not career-oriented positions, so we have to in order to be able to staff our restaurant appropriately, we have to have a lot of part-time people.
What made you decide on Aspen Grove?
To be quite honest, we were actually solicited by Aspen Grove. They were looking for a restaurant of our category. They were really impressed with what we've done. They actually did a lot of research on us to see, what type of quality they wanted, because they definitely wanted to change the way they did business a bit, because they primarily have all corporate, big corporations that are in that center. And so, what they've kind of noticed that they need a little bit of local flair. And so they asked us to come out, take a look, and they really liked what we had. We have two types of kitchen basically in one restaurant. So we have a very, very extensive menu on both sides of the Japanese side of things with a full sushi bar and some of the Japanese cuisine in the kitchen, but then we also have a very extensive Chinese menu. And with the two, we could separate our kitchens. They could actually run on their own as a freestanding restaurant. But what we've done is we integrated all these types of cuisines under one umbrella to be able to accommodate more palates. And so, I'll give you the quick short on that. But my wife is a meat and potato gal, and so I grew up loving Asian cuisine. Sushi was a big deal for me. And when we were dating, of course, a lot more flexibility. So I was able to eat sushi a few times a year. But as we got more comfortable, marriage came along, things started to get cut out of the diet. And sushi was really hard for me because that's a cuisine that I actually crave. And so what I thought about was designing a menu that would be able to accommodate both sides. So it didn't matter if it was 5 people or 2 people. There was something for everyone. And that's how we kind of came about with that menu to accommodate. Because I still wanted my sushi, but I also wanted my wife to be happy. So it worked
Happy
out really well.
marriage.
Now we eat sushi, by the way.
Do you have an estimate how much revenue, percentage-wise, you think will be from alcohol as opposed to food?
We are roughly going to be around 20%. That's what our estimated number is. But it's hard to gauge because our current restaurant is not going to be the same kind of dynamic as this Aspen Grove location. We're in a very residential center in Greenwood Village at this point, so there's very little visibility, very limited traffic because we're on Orchard and Hawley. And so Orchard does not go through, so it really runs into the neighborhood. And, the demographics are good, but there's just not a lot of people in that area. So as much volume in this current location is definitely not going to be the same as this restaurant. So, we've looked at it. We also have other segments in our restaurant. We do takeout and delivery, and that actually lowers our beverage percentage. But in this restaurant, we actually, we feel like our big emphasis is on our dine-in patrons first. And so we're really encouraging them and incentivizing them to be more into the restaurant. But I'd say about 20% of our
Thank you. Michael, you work for Teocrest now?
I did work for Telecraft. Let's see, until I think the end of April. So April 26th, I think, was my last day.
What's a delivery consultant?
What's a delivery consultant? So basically what happens is the salespeople go out and sell products, and it's a delivery consultant's job to deliver those products to the clients.
Oh, okay. Now, you're going to be the manager. It indicates here that you actually, when did you move to Denver?
Well, I actually grew up in Denver, moved to California, Phoenix, and then back to Denver. I think it's the fall of 2005. 2005.
Okay. Yeah, because it indicated that you worked for Lotus Rices up to 2010, and then you went to work for Teocrest.
Right. Well, I started at Teocraft and I took some time away, got involved with the restaurant, and then ended up going back to Teocraft.
Okay.
What portion of your employees will be actually handling liquor, serving drinks, mixing drinks, whatever?
Roughly, I'd say it could be about 20 to 25 of those employees would be over the age of 18, able to handle those positions, but I'd say about 20, 25, maybe up to 45 employees would be.
Who will be responsible for training these employees regarding liquor and the laws affecting liquor?
Well, I'm also going to be involved as well, especially because of the new restaurant and everything else. But we've partnered up with our liquor vendors, and we have some really good relationships with our suppliers, basically. And so we have a deal set up that our employees will be tips trained through their facilities, but we're going to go ongoing with a lot of educational materials. I mean, we have a very extensive wine list, and so, you know, in order to be able to sell our wine, we have to have some knowledgeable people, because we're going to roughly have about 80 to 100 different types of wine. So we're going to have some, you know, just some everyday kind of drinkable wines to the ones that are going to be aged a little bit longer, but for those people who can actually recognize those certain styles of wine or certain wineries. But the vendors of ours are the ones who are going to really help assist us in the training, because we definitely want to make sure that, you know, we're compliant with the law, but also that our staff doesn't create liability for us. And it is a big deal for us, and we take it seriously.
What role will Thomas play?
I'm sorry?
What role will Thomas play?
Thomas is a silent partner. So when we need money, we call Thomas.
Really?
I need one of those.
Yeah. Can we have Thomas's phone number?
You know, only one person can call that number.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed that you list him, but I didn't have an individual history record on Thomas.
He is less than 10%.
Is he less than 10%? Fair enough. Thank you.
Have you ever had a liquor violation with your current restaurant?
Yes, we've been in business, and I've actually been in the business. I mean, obviously, I was born into it. I really probably do have more grease in my veins than blood. But you know, we grew up in the business. We know these things. I mean, I studied hospitality. You know, I've done a lot of things. I've been part of Wendy's Cafe. I've been part of like the Emergence Hotel. I did a lot of the beverage purchasing there. So, you know, through the time, though, you know, I've been trained well. I understand the liabilities of liquor. And so, you know, we feel very comfortable. But you know, this is my business, and I truly do not want liability. I do not want issues, but I also am worried about my guests. And fortunately for us, we're more of a restaurant than a bar. So everyone who comes into our restaurant really, I mean, I would say 98% of the people that come into our restaurant, they all eat. We might have a guy who comes in and has a beer, but really that's a very rare occasion, because everyone who comes in is going to eat. They're either going to dine in, or they might have a beer while they're waiting for their takeout. But everyone eats. But we are concerned, because we don't want someone to create an issue, you know, hurt anyone. I mean, it is something significant for us. And, you know, through my history, I've had some experiences, not necessarily, you know, directly related to my areas, but I've seen it through the different, you know, businesses I've been part of.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll move on and talk about facilities.
You have my permission.
Thank you, sir. Can you tell us about the facility itself?
Well, it's about a 5,000 square foot restaurant. I think our inside seating capacity is roughly about 160. And we do have an outdoor patio that can accommodate over 40, about 48 seats.
Has a patio been approved by the city?
Patio is in the works. We are actually, I actually was looking into that today, and somehow the landlord has not approved or has not given us information yet. It shouldn't be a problem. I actually went with a guy who does awnings for Aspen Grove. The guy has done 90% of the awnings. He's dealt with them. he's surprised that it's taking as long as it is. But he's followed the criteria. He knows he's done every one of them. So I'm very confident that we'll move right along with that.
How will you ensure that alcohol doesn't get passed outside the patio, if you will, to people walking down the street or something?
Well, there is a controlled railing around the patio area. We will have surveillance cameras out on the patio to be able to keep an eye on the activity. Not to say that we're going to be able to catch someone if they pass it on really quick. I mean, I can't be there babysitting, but at the same time, I believe that the staff is already trained. They are aware. There is a server station located right at the door of the patio. And so it's a very heavily trafficked employee area that you have to pass through to get to the patio. And because of that location, I definitely feel very confident because we also have windows behind this hostess area that also looks at the patio. So we actually have a lot of different eyes that can keep an eye on what's going on that patio.
I notice in the diagram you have 2 doors or gates or something on the patio part. Are those going to be available for anybody to come in and out as they please, or are you going to control those?
Well, the gates are, for obviously emergency exit, just so people can get in and out. But during the hours of operation, I mean, it is an outdoor patio. So when we're operating, we will be staffed, we will be monitoring all the service and what we're doing on that patio. But once we're closed, I mean, it's pretty much locked up. I mean,
Well, you won't have the only patio in the shopping center that there's one I know of for sure that exists right now. So
I think there's a couple. I think Champs has a patio, and Ted's has a patio.
I know Ted's does. I had forgotten about Champs.
Oh, and Panera, but Panera doesn't sell.
So there's some experience there that if you really had a confusion how you want to run that patio, you can talk to one of your competitors. I'm sure they'd be glad to share that with you.
Now you have in the front of the restaurant is your liquor and bar area.
Yeah, to the
So
right.
is that where you're going to store all your alcohol, or do you have more coolers in the back?
And yes, that is actually the area of all alcohol storage. So we will not have any alcohol in the back. We actually took out the storeroom for that. And what we did was, in this diagram, you see a wine room as well. There's a little small wine room. That's actually going to be holding a lot of stock as well. And then we have storage above it as well that only management can access.
So that will be locked.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And the coolers and everything else we have they have all the abilities to lock, but normally, in service, I mean, it's hard to lock those coolers during that time, but during that time, we're always staffed with, at minimum, 1 bartender, but most likely we're going to be running 2 bartenders at any given time. So, and then plus it could be a cocktail waitress as well or something like that. But there's always going to be bar staff that's in the bar that actually are not allowed to leave that area because they can't leave the control.
When do you plan to open?
Well, as soon as possible, but the reality of it is we are hoping construction continues to move forward. We are on a good pace to open up. We were shooting for July 4th. We are shooting for July 10th, around that time now.
What will be your hours of operation?
Hours of operation will be Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, we'll move on to the neighborhood petition.
You ready to present your petition?
Sure. I'm not sure if I'll present it correctly, but I'll take a shot at it. I actually, we elected to do the petition ourselves. I felt like we could get a better pulse of what the community was looking for. But I took that upon myself to do because I did the last one for us in Greenwood Village as well, and I was very active in that. My opening chef and I actually hit every house because we actually wanted to let the neighborhood know what we were doing, what kind of restaurant. And what I noticed is through these petition processes, these other petitioners that you hire, they actually don't know anything about your business. It almost seems as if they just want to collect the check, do the basic minimum, and move on. And that's not how I do business. I actually have pride in what I do, and I feel like I want to do a little more. But it was very important for me to get to know what's going on in the neighborhood, kind of introduce myself and the restaurant. And it is a nice feeling to kind of get to know these customers. We were in a very intimate area in Greenwood Village, and those are the people who basically support my business. It's the residents. We do have business people, but, that's a daytime kind of business. And at night, it's almost 100%. It's just the neighborhood. And so, I've actually recognized a lot of them. Some come to me and say, hey, I remember you knocking on my door. And I mean, it's a good feeling to kind of get to know people. But the way we do our business is we do build relationships. We get to know our guests. And that's why I took it upon ourselves to do this again, to let the neighborhood know, explain a little more. Because sometimes, people knock on doors, they're already not happy with people coming to their house and bothering them for something. But they were pretty impressed because they were excited that a new restaurant's coming. They already knew that Aspen Grove was lacking, and so they were giving me feedback of other things, and what has come, what has gone, what they've liked, what they didn't like. I mean, it was very interesting to me. But they also kind of told me little things about parking, days to avoid, and, so kind of, like, the Paris Street Market. They basically said, you better figure out another way for your staff because there's no parking. And especially where they're located, it's right in front of us. But it was a very interesting process to meet everybody, and, we wanted to definitely do the job right. So I took it upon myself to do it myself.
So the bottom line is you, as the owner, you can personally verify all these numbers that went into the petition and the summarization.
Just as long as my staff isn't pulling one on me, because we had some of my staff doing it. But they weren't as motivated as, of course, I was, because I wanted to make sure we got it done and got it done right. And, I joined them, but, I sent them on their sides, and I just didn't see that they were doing as well as I was, so I just took it upon myself to kind of finish the rest of the deal. But they did, and I made sure that they qualified the addresses and everything else, and I did talk to them extensively to make sure, and everything was legitimate. But as you can tell, you'll notice that my numbers are much greater than theirs, and as well as my wife's, because my wife joined me in this nice escapade.
At this time, I'd like to ask you to move on to presenting the results of your petitioning in a brief form, if possible.
So we started the petition on May 22nd, and we basically, I believe that was a Wednesday, so we went ahead and did it 5 days in a row just to make sure we had the numbers. So we did it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday. So May 22nd through May 26th, we hit 730 doors. We had 448 not at home. We had 8 that were not qualified to sign, and then we actually had 41 that did not sign or did not want to sign the petition. And then so we had a total of 218 that were in favor. And I don't have the sheet, but I don't know how many declined, and I apologize for that information. 41 elected, it says did not sign. So how many did not? Yeah, we had 41 did not sign. So
they didn't want to sign. They didn't object and take the opposed position on it.
I'm sorry. I'm kind of following this list, and obviously I'm not the legitimate petitioner, but I do believe we did have some opposition. Not a lot. I think it was maybe about 3 people, and I can look through the sheets, but I'm sure that
you had one with opposition that didn't have a name. The second one on the list, they left the name blank and wrote in their address, and we don't know a thing about them except where they live. They apparently didn't give a reason for their opposition either.
I think, and I asked my staff about those, and they said that the people were already upset that they didn't want to sign, and they actually just slapped it on and said, here you go, I'm not signing anything, here you go, here's my address, I don't want to do it, kind of deal. And what we noticed, we had quite a bit of people not home, and that's where we noticed that Wednesday, Thursday, and the morning of Friday, that was a bad time to go. Not a lot of people were home at that time. We definitely saw the majority of people being home on the weekend. But we didn't, we went above. I know the minimum was roughly about 500 door knocks. We definitely wanted to hit it pretty hard, just so we got a good pull. But also, you know, we wanted to accumulate as many points as we could. So.
Good on you.
How'd the process go with the city? This is, just for your info, this is a new process where we've worked to implement so that someone could do their own, well, not that they couldn't before, but we formalized it a bit. So how, did you feel like you understood?
Fantastic. I think that you guys did a great job, because when we went through the city of Greenwood, I mean, typically most people do not do this.
Right.
And city of Greenwood Village, no one did it. They were kind of like, why don't you hire somebody? And I said, well, you know, I kind of want to do this. I mean, is that okay? And so I kind of talked them into it. They gave me very little guideline. I kind of got to take a look at another one, and I just basically kind of got information from it and understood how we did it. But what you guys did with the names, the signatures, all that, I mean, boundary map, I mean, it's a good package. I think it's pretty complete, you know, so I thought it made it a lot easier, and this actually enables other people to do this on their own without incurring. I don't know what it costs from the other side, but I feel like it's, for business owners, it's a great pulse to get to know what's going on in the neighborhood. And we're active operators, so that's why we do want to. I mean, I understand other people might not ever be in their business, and so why would they want to knock on people's doors? You know.
Good opportunity to get some feedback.
Absolutely. Well, for me, it's important, and that's why we did it.
Right.
Because I want to know. I'm inquiring mind.
Any other questions?
I will say that the neighborhood definitely was very excited. They like our category. It worked for almost everybody's families. Everyone was excited, whether they love sushi or they love Chinese. I mean, they were pretty pumped up. But they also like the fact that we do delivery, because I guess there's not a lot of options in the area. So they were pretty happy with that.
More questions?
Thank you very much. This time I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, this is a public hearing, so I would ask you to ask if there's anyone here in the audience that wanted to testify.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of or in opposition to this application? I don't have a sign-in sheet from anybody.
There was nobody signed up. Nobody signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Then I'm going to make a motion. I move that the public hearing be closed, excuse me, and a resolution of the Littleton Licensing Authority be approved, which grants Lotus Restaurant Group 2, LLC, doing business as Rice Bistro and Sushi, 7301 South Santa Fe Drive, number 410, Littleton, Colorado, a hotel and restaurant liquor license, contingent upon receipt and approval of reports from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and approval by the Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division, and based upon the following findings of fact. 1, that notice of the hearing was properly posted and published. 2, that the applicant has possession of the premise and the premise are suitable for the requested license. 3, that the needs of the neighborhood are not now being met. 4, that it is the desire of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood that the license be issued. 5, that existing similar liquor licenses in the designated neighborhood are not adequate. And 6, that the applicant and registered manager are persons of good moral character, record, and reputation.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the application. Is there any further discussion?
No, I think there'll be a great addition to Aspen Grove.
Aye.
And it sounds like they're very well organized. They're concerned about the restaurants. They're concerned about the food. They're concerned about the neighborhood and everything. And no, I think it'd be great.
Any further discussion? I would ask the city attorney to poll the authority, please.
The city clerk will do that. Authority Member Bradish,
Yes.
Authority Member Gunya,
Yes.
Authority Member Odell,
Yes.
Authority Member Cole,
Yes.
Authority Member Mather.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Congratulations, gentlemen. Good luck with your new business, and
Well, we look forward to joining you here in Littleton. So
Thank you
very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate
thank you. And I'd also like to commend you on the thoroughness of your application and the amount of information you provided, and I also think you did a wonderful job on the petition. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Next item of business is item 8B, Walters Bomar Limited Liability Corporation, doing business as Walters Pizzeria, 5194 South Lowell Boulevard, a new application.
This is also an application for a hotel and restaurant liquor license. I would ask for a motion to receive Exhibits A through H into the record.
I'll move we enter Exhibits A through H.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the council. I'm here with Mike Keenest, who's the owner of the applicant in this case, and he's here to give you a little presentation and answer your questions. I would, however, request that we put Max Scott on first as a witness, if you don't mind.
Mind if he does the petition first? Or is it?
I don't have a problem with that. I think you can present your case in any order you want. So if you want the petition first off, that's, unless some other member has an objection to that, that's perfectly fine.
Fine with me.
And we recognize this gentleman as having been here before.
Thank you. Do you folks swear?
No.
I'll tell the truth anyway. You want me to just go ahead?
We do encourage truthfulness.
My name is Max Scott. I own and operate Edibus Incorporated. We're at 1216 Tipperary Street in unincorporated Boulder County. And we were retained to do a survey on this license. Perhaps I'll mention we're in our 45th business year. The client retained us and paid us in advance. Thank you very much. And we designed the petition survey from the top of the clipboard down, and you folks have a copy of our report.
Yes.
Hopefully. Do you have a color map on page 5?
I don't think they have color maps.
No color map. It might look a little shaded.
Mine is too.
The defined neighborhood by city staff is in a bold line. Generally, the north boundary follows the city limits, and you'll see there's a circle with an X. That's the site location. And we sampled throughout the defined neighborhood business owners and residences, and we were denied access to 2 areas. One is the Coventry, a gated community, and the Riverwalk, a senior retirement community. In other words, we went there, explained why we were there. We're not soliciting. It's a requirement under the state statute, but the answer was still no. Then the document after the map was either a business or resident petition that explains the issue, why the survey is being conducted, provides the city clerk's name and contact information if there's any complaints about us, or someone would like more information. Then we had a briefing sheet. Contrary to the testimony you just heard, the briefing sheet is quite detailed. Generically, it explains what a hotel restaurant license is. That's the application in this matter. Days, hours of operation, and beverages that can be sold. And then detailed information about the applicant's concept, the proposal, and to include carrying his menu, which you're probably going to hear about. This is a pizza concept, and we had a lot of interest in the menu and remarks to the effect that there isn't a deep dish pizza in the defined neighborhood, though there is another pizza place. The surveyor also had a stat sheet to record refusals and out at homes for people that wanted to participate in the survey but didn't execute on the petition format. After the survey is conducted, the surveyors return the petitioning documents, and we do a 2-step editing process to determine what the survey results are. In other words, it's a percentage analysis that eventually gets to the issue, which is the purpose of this public hearing. the reasonable requirements of the neighborhood, desires of the adult inhabitants, or the Supreme Court vernacular phrase, needs and desires. On page 2 of the report, item number 1, I'm reporting to our client that we did what we contracted to do. We don't guarantee survey results. Item number 2, we had 40 businesses favoring, 0 against, 145 residences favoring, 5 against. We had 1 person who was a party in interest that favored the application and just verbalized that. That was recorded by gender and street address. And we had 4 people who opposed. They were qualified, didn't sign, but we recorded that information. Item 2B are the reasons that were written in on our petition format, which sounds like the city copied. No, we've been using this since the 70s. We had 2 no need, enough outlets in the neighborhood or something to that effect, 1 abhorrence of alcohol, 2 miscellaneous reasons. And so in this survey category, 4 against for whatever reason, 95%, favoring the issuance of the license, showing a need and a desire for the application to be granted. Then in our analysis of the needs and desires, which is subtracting out commercial usage objections and some other miscellaneous reasons, the survey category goes from 95% favoring to 90, well, if you round up, 99%. Exceptionally good survey results for a hotel restaurant license in an established neighborhood. And the margin of error is 1.4, added in, subtracted out. Both categories show a need and a desire for a new hotel restaurant license, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Do you have any questions for the gentleman?
Well, I've got one. I'm not sure how to define this sheet I'm looking at. But I'm looking at one where there's a Doug Johnson that signed it. And when I looked to the left-hand side, it kind of looked like a P-E something something. So my question is, do you do anything to attempt to ensure that the right person signs it?
Well, we Vordirum, do you live at this address, or are you over the age of 21, or are you a business owner or manager over the age of 21? And we take their word for it when they say yes. But I don't know if I understand. We don't ask them for an identification or anything like that.
I was just, the way the signature is and the way the name is printed just seems to be like 2 different persons or 2 different names. And maybe I'm just not reading your...
Oh. At the bottom of the document, there'll be some initials, and then it'll have a page number. It'll say CC or
Page
DM.
1 DM?
Who?
Page 1 DM?
DM, Doug Mason. Okay, let me find that. And is it a residence, a resident, or a business?
I'm looking at the 5th one up from the bottom.
It's a resident.
There's 2 petition formats. Is there a column that says...
Excuse me, sir. It might be easier. You can see where I've marked it off on the right-hand side. You can go on back to Mike and take that with you. I'm looking at where I made a note off to the right-hand side, left-hand side, excuse me, Doug Johnson.
Well, I don't know what to tell you about the signature. That does look curious.
It didn't look like Doug Johnson to me.
If we eliminate it statistically,
I understand, but I was just curious. You may keep it. I don't need it back.
Oh, all right.
But I was just curious if you made any attempt to make sure that the printed signature and the written signature was the same name.
We do look at that, but I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any others? Aroused your attention?
Oh, I
Study the file.
I can get picky, but
I can see your point, but I can also look at that and say I see a D and an E to start the signature. Any other questions regarding the petition? No, thank you.
I got mine.
here's a question. Oh. I have no further questions on the petition.
I do not have any questions either. Does anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Yeah.
Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Miles.
How you doing?
Would you state your name, please?
My name is Michael Keenest.
And you are?
I'm the owner of Walter's Pizzeria.
Okay.
If I understand right, you are the 100% owner and CEO.
Yes, correct.
And just for the record, can you tell us who Susan Williams is?
Susan Williams is my mother-in-law, so she is just a person that's loaning money for initial investment.
Okay, so she's the loan holder.
Yes, correct. And I think there's a promissory note in there somewhere, I believe, too.
Okay. And is there a Christopher Mallory?
Chris Mallory is was going to be one of my managers, my main manager down at the location.
Thank you.
Yep.
And you have another location?
Yeah, it's in the uptown area. It's at 1906 Pearl Street. It's a little bit smaller location than this one. It's more, it's surrounded by businesses, and it has residential above it. It's more of a younger demographic. I mean, most of the kids up there are just either finishing up school, DU or Metro or the Royer campus, and or else they're just finished school and they got their first jobs in the downtown area. And so most of the kids, primarily in that probably a 4 or 5 block radius, are going to be anywhere from 19, 20 to 30s. Then surrounding that area is a lot of businesses. Like I said, we're 5 blocks off of downtown, so we get a lot of lunch crowd, and so we have but most of the majority of the people living in that area are the younger demographic. So
what attracted you to this neighborhood?
you know what? Again, like I said, we have a lot of downtown business and stuff, and we have a lot of people that actually live down in this area, and they're like, you know what? We would love to have you come out to our neighborhoods. And that's what we wanted to start beginning with. I grew up in Colorado Springs, and that's how I got into the pizza business the first time before I went to school for college. But that's how I got into the business. We were in a suburb of Rockrimmon that's unfortunately burning right now. But it was a family pizzeria. I mean, literally, we just had families would either come pick up pizzas for takeout, or they would cross from a Safeway, or else we would deliver. And we had a few families that sat there and had dinners and stuff like that. So, but anyway, the reason I looked at this area, I was actually looking down at Highlands Ranch and Parker and some other areas that I'm more familiar with, but they mentioned, why don't you try coming down towards Grant Ranch, Bomar, and that stuff. So we were kind of looking around everywhere just to get it more of a family pizzeria, more sit down, dine in, place where parents can hang out and have a glass of wine, beer, while their kids are kind of being kids. They're not locked into a booth or a table or a chair and stuff, and parents can actually enjoy their conversation without knock it off Johnny or whatever that is, So that's why we decided to come down this direction.
Now, I heard you mention beer, and I heard you mention wine.
Yeah.
Do you plan to also serve, quote, hard liquor?
You know what, I have a license up at the 1906. I have a beer and wine license. That's what I've done primarily. It's done very well. I just was going for a hotel restaurant license just so I would have it just in case. I'm primarily going to start with beer and wine. I know there's people that don't drink beer or wine, but they rather have a Bloody Mary or a cocktail and stuff. I was thinking in my mind that it would be more just very simple, like I said, like a vodka tonic, I'm not going to be a full service bar. My intentions aren't to run a bar. We plan on our hours are going to be very limited in the evenings, not late night crowds. So it's just having options for people that don't just drink beer or wine. So
when I get a pizza delivered, can I get a beer with it?
No, we can't. No, we can't actually. I get that question a lot. So I get that question a lot up at my other location. Can you sell me a 6-pack? And no, the answer is no, unfortunately.
Thank you.
So you said, what will your hours be, or what do you intend for?
We open at 11. We're going to open at 11 o'clock. It's a little bit different animal down here than it is up there. Obviously, it's a more younger crowd, so they eat later and stuff. Down here, I was thinking mostly probably Monday through Thursday. It would probably be maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. The weekends, I think, would probably be 10 o'clock, maybe 11 at the latest, but I've been down here just in the evenings, just driving around and seeing what the neighborhood, if there's any life after 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and it seems like, it's a residential, it's a family area, so there's not lot of traffic, and so my thoughts are just probably 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock during the week, and then Friday, Saturday at the most, probably 10 o'clock, 11 at the latest if there was a demand, but it wouldn't be any later than that.
Do you have an estimate as to how much will be takeout, delivery, in-house?
It's hard to say. We had the place that was there before us was there for, it was a pizza place that was it was only takeout and delivery. So they've been, that's what they primarily did. I'm not sure. I think, I would say my gut is probably it's going to be mostly 50% will be takeout, maybe a little bit more. I'd like to say it's just that's a kind of a rough guesstimate. Like I said, that's what it was before. And, the other store we have, it was, right now it started out being only takeout and call-ins, takeout people, because we live, it's a very walkable area up there, and, probably 50% was takeout, and we have 25% eating in, we had 25% delivery. Now that's moved up to more closer to 35-40% is delivery. So if we get probably 40%, maybe 40-50, that's what I probably at the most there. I'm trying to, again, it's what we want to establish a family neighborhood pizzeria where, like I said, you can come and hang out and just unwind from the week or the day or whatever and just enjoy yourself.
How wide of an area do you include to have delivery?
What's that?
How wide of a geographical area do you?
You know what? There's so many. It's a high. I mean, it's not as high as my other location, but I mean, I was thinking probably like a mile and a half. So we thought, like I said, we wouldn't go way any further past Santa Fe this direction to the east. We definitely wouldn't go. We're thinking about stopping at Grant Ranch area, so I can't off the top of my head. I think that's not Coal Mine, but right where Columbine is, and then going down to the Coventry area by Columbine Valley, and then no further further than I think it's Oxford, I believe. No, it's Oxford. I'm trying to think of the next street up. So
probably similar to the area that was drawn by the city as the boundaries.
I don't want, like I said, I would do delivery. I don't want to have my drivers out there, as much as possible. I'd rather have people come and pick it up and enjoy us here and enjoy. And you look at our reviews and stuff. We're about service. We offer a great product. Something I really I've personally eaten since I was 17. I've tweaked it a lot since I've gotten the recipes from my former boss and kept in touch with him for 20 years. That still does it in California and then has stores in Indianapolis where he currently lives. But we've tweaked it. But I want people to come and enjoy the service part of it. And that's, like I said, you look at our reviews, and that's the mainstay. Everything it's always a positive review. They might not like the style of pizza, a thin crust or a deep dish, but they all like the customer service and just the service, actually. So.
How many employees? Were you going to ask how many employees?
I was going to ask what the seating capacity.
The seating capacity is, we're thinking about putting booths, and if you look at the diagram, there's a little game area, and there's some long benches that we could do, because we're trying to promote youth sports. We have a park right across the street that, for softball leagues or youth soccer or anything like that, schools, churches that are around just to come and hang out. So it's kind of hard to say how many you can actually fit on the kids on a bench and stuff. So, but on our building plans that we submitted, I think it was 70, I think is what it was, based on those.
In conjunction with that, then, how many employees do you anticipate having? And can you explain a little about your experience, your training for serving alcohol your employees?
Yeah. As far as employees, I'm thinking, like I said, at my other location, we have a total of 11 employees that work, but only on my whole schedule on my roster, I only have 4 or 5 employees that work at night. On a Friday night, I have five total. So there, obviously we're going to have a little bit more because of the we're going to have a bartender that's primarily just serving the beers and stuff, pouring the beers and a cocktail or whatever. And then, so working generally at night, I would say probably 7 or 8 people, maybe 9 at the most. So we probably have a couple servers, a bartender, one person doing the takeout and deliveries and stuff, people answering phones, a couple deliveries, and probably 3 or 4 maybe 3 cooks, / dishwasher.
And then what is the nature of their training?
As far as in regards to liquor?
Alcohol.
Max Scott, the gentleman that just presented the position, he's going to be, before we open, which we're open in probably 6 to 8 weeks, we're having arranged for him to do a all-inclusive, all my staff training for a tips training, so they'll all be certified including myself. Again, I just took it 2 years ago up at ServSafe in the city of Denver, and then my manager, and then whoever else, all my staff will be trained. Because you never know, who comes in contact, a half-full beer in the dish area or whatever. You just need to make sure your employees they understand there's consequences for just, from the city or state and stuff like that. But also there's, things that can be lost, lives and all that other stuff. There's, more serious consequences than just fines. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. And as far as mine, to answer your second part of that question, I've been in restaurants since I was 17. My first serving job was actually at the Ruby Tuesdays up the street here. That's now changed. I think it's going to be Hurricane Wings, I think. That was my first serving. So I've been doing this off and on, putting myself through school. I've been a bartender for probably 5 or 6 years. I've been a bar manager for a couple of years. I've ran restaurants, been a manager at a couple of different restaurants, and then, I went from running restaurants and working at restaurants to opening up the pizza place that's been open for almost 3 years now. So.
Have you ever had a liquor violation?
No, knock on wood. We've been very, very fortunate. Like I said, I know we try to teach our employees. You have to card people. If they don't have a card, there's no dice. It's not worth their, fines for them, fines for me, fines, and multiple ramifications of that. So, but no, we have not.
You card everybody that orders alcohol?
Almost everybody. Most people like it. Even if most people say, yeah, we card anybody under 40. But you know what?
Card him?
What's that?
Would you card
yes.
him?
Exactly. But most people enjoy it. They say thank you. I get a lot of thanks for carding me. I appreciate it. So it's not a bad thing. So most people can appreciate what it's for and the responsibility.
They're used to it by now.
What's that?
People are used to it by now.
Yeah. It's just better safe than sorry.
And that's what we prefer.
Yeah. Me too. Because like I said, there's a lot to lose.
You're right.
So you're planning on opening about the end of July, middle of August?
Most likely it's going to be middle of August. We haven't started any demo or construction or anything because, like I said, we wanted to make sure we had it's nice to open a pizza place and stuff, but we want to make sure you can have a beer and wine with your pizza. So we were kind of waiting on to see if we got approval for a license. And so we haven't done anything of that nature yet until we knew if it was going to happen or not. We were fortunate enough to get one.
On the drawing, it says, is this going to be a future patio, or will there be a patio when you open?
There will be a patio when we open. We're waiting for the building plan reviews and stuff. We talked to the plan reviews already granted us permission for the patio.
Okay. And do you have some sort of barrier that?
Yeah, there's going to be railing all the way. So we have 2 doors in and out going into the space. The barrier will be right between the middle of it. So you have one way you have to go into the entrance. And then to go to the patio, you have to come out the second door that's from the restaurant. So you actually have to come into the restaurant before you can go to the patio. There is a second, an emergency gate that is there, but you'll have to be served, either be served by a server on the patio or else our bartender have to come out. You'll have to have somebody come out to you. And there's windows all along the patio there. It's a full-length window and stuff, so you can see from the inside what is additionally going on outside.
I have no further questions. Anybody else?
I have no questions.
Did we have a sign-up sheet for this one? Is there anyone?
I don't have anyone signed up to speak, but Mike, did you have anybody that wanted to?
Well, unless you want to, we just had a business person here to testify. If you guys wanted to have somebody, testify, just in case. But if you want to hear him, then he's here. But if you don't, then he's just a.
I would say it's up to you. It's your presentation. So if you have someone who'd like to,
I think I've said what I needed to say. Unless you guys would rather have some other person talk about it. And
it's up to you to put what you think is right into your presentation. We'll listen to whatever, but it sounds like
I think we're good. I believe so.
There's nothing else you want to add on your behalf.
Not that I kind of think of. So.
All right, then. I believe it's time to move on to a motion.
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I move that the public hearing be closed and a resolution of the Littleton Licensing Authority be approved, which grants Walters Bomar LLC, DBA Walters Pizzeria, 5194 South Lowell Boulevard, Littleton, Colorado, a hotel and restaurant liquor license contingent upon the receipt and approval of reports from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and approval by the Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division, and based upon the following findings of fact. One, that the approval by the Colorado Liquor Enforcement Division be based that the notice of the hearing was properly posted and published. Two, that the applicant has possession of the premises and the premises are suitable for the requested license. Three, that the needs of the neighborhood are not now being met. Four, that it is the desire of the adult inhabitants of the neighborhood that the license should be issued. Five, that the existing similar liquor licenses in the designated neighborhood are not adequate. And six, that the applicant and registered manager are persons of good moral character, record, and reputation.
Second.
Will the city clerk please poll the authority?
Authority Member Bradish?
Yes.
Authority Member Gunya?
Yes.
Authority Member Odell?
Yes.
Authority Member Cole?
Yes.
Authority Member Mather?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Congratulations.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
luck in getting your building built and
Appreciate it.
starting your business.
Appreciate it as always. Thank you. Thank you.
Next item of business is number 10, a preliminary hearing of liquor code violations. Item 10A, Tavern Littleton Incorporated, doing business as Tavern Littleton. There has been no stipulation reached between the city and the applicant in this case.
Mr. Chairman,
Instead,
there has been a stipulation reached, and we would ask that the authority consider that first.
I shouldn't have been so late.
And if the stipulation is approved, there will not be a need to consider the motion to exclude the PBT evidence.
Thank you very much, City Attorney.
First, the city would like to start out admitting all the exhibits, Exhibit A through F. F is the stipulation that was submitted to the authority, I think, just prior to the start of the meeting. The stipulation as presented to the authority, essentially we've arrived at a factual stipulation and a sentencing stipulation. The factual stipulation essentially is that the parties agree that there is circumstantial evidence to support that the licensee may have permitted the service of a visibly intoxicated person upon the licensed premises, and those facts would constitute a violation of 3210F, sale to intoxicated persons in Colorado Revised Statutes, Section 1247-901. Further, the licensee admits that this matter, should this matter proceed to hearing, that there is a risk that the Littleton Liquor Licensing Authority could find a violation based upon the circumstantial evidence set forth above in paragraph 1A. Licensee also admits the incident that occurred on March 14th could be used by the Littleton Liquor Licensing Authority to impose the suspension that was previously held in abeyance on January 9, 2013. As to the sentence stipulation, the parties agree that the city will not revoke and impose the suspended time held in abeyance on the sanction imposed by the authority on January 9, 2013, that those 7 days of suspension of the licensee's liquor license with 5 days held in abeyance for 1 year from the date of the final order imposed by the authority on January 9, 2013 will be extended to start 1 year from the date of the authority approving this stipulation, and that there will be no additional fines in lieu of in this case. We're asking the authority to approve the stipulation after both parties have had extensive conversations, have reviewed all the facts, the weight of the facts. We think this is a fair stipulation, and we'd ask the authority to approve it.
Can we get a motion to approve the exhibits first?
Was it A through F?
A through
Excuse
F,
me,
yeah.
A through F. I'll move that we enter exhibits A through F into the record.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Motion carried.
I would like to start with a question. On B of the sentencing stipulation, you say the previous days held in abeyance will be extended to start 1 year from the date we accept this stipulation. Do you mean it will end 1 year from today?
That's
if we
correct.
accepted this?
So the new term would start today and end 1 year from today.
Okay. The way it's written, it should probably say end instead of start.
No, it starts 1 year from the date if we approve this stipulation.
Right, but I think it says it would start 1 year from the date we approve it.
So it'll start next year.
Yeah, so.
I think we wanted to end next year.
So it would start and extend 1 year from the date? Extend 1 year? Should we put an extend?
But it's actually being extended. So the year started January 9th, 2013, originally. So I'm asking you to extend that starting from today.
So let me see if I understand.
Restarting from today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just need to.
I get what you mean, but I think you're right that it reads as though it would be extended to start 1 year from today. So could we do, will start?
Should say it will start today.
Yeah, 1 year from the date, the authority approving the stipulation and extend for 1 year.
Sure.
Okay.
Should say we'll start the day the authority approves the stipulation.
Are you proposing that there be no additional suspension or anything for this incident?
Yes, we are.
What you are proposing is that basically they extend the January 5 days for 6 months?
That's correct.
And that's the only thing you're proposing?
That's correct. And that's based upon reviewing all the facts that were present in the police report, having extensive conversations with the police department and the two officers that are present here today, having extensive conversations with Mr. Beinford, and then taking into account how those facts line up against other matters that the authority has heard recently.
I'd be interested to hear from the licensee.
Well, James Beinford appearing on behalf of the licensee, we'd ask that the board approve the stipulation, and again, it's with the extensive conversations with the police department and the back and forth with the city. I think the police department has weighed in on this heavily and thinks it's an appropriate stipulation moving forward.
Is that why we have two uniformed officers present tonight? Is that regarding this case?
Yes, they were here to testify on the motion to exclude PPT evidence. So we've asked them to remain in case we have to hear that motion.
Did you wish to call any witnesses?
No.
Do we need to rule on the preliminary breath test?
No.
If you approve the stipulation, you do not.
Thank you.
That's a matter that we may want to take up on our own in the future, just to familiarize ourselves with what the law is about that, because you raised an interesting point, and we'll take that up later.
I'm inclined to support the stipulation based, as I reread the police reports, I didn't see a lot of evidence. Now, obviously, that was just a report. If we wanted to, we could go to a full hearing and could bring in witnesses. But it sounds to me like the city prosecutor has done that. And again, the police report, I didn't see anything standing out that would weigh heavily, that the person was overly intoxicated or it was terribly obvious the person was intoxicated. So based on that, I would be inclined to support the stipulation.
I'm on the opposite side of the fence. I think the police report, one officer stated that there was strong odor of alcoholic beverage, that the speech was slow and slurred, the eyes were watery. Separate officer making an independent evaluation said he repeatedly grabbed his shirt and pulled on him.
The officers.
The officers, yeah, he was repeatedly grabbing the officer's shirt and pulling on him. He had slurred speech. He had the lack of ability to stand. My opinion is those are the ways that you tell if a person is drunk. And therefore, I tend to believe that we should pursue this further. And I would be against, or I not would be, I am against the stipulation that says we'll just sweep it under the rug.
As the authority has discussed before, the standard according to law is not the level of the blood alcohol, but visible signs of intoxication. There is no legal limit for blood alcohol outside of the venue of operating a vehicle. As you stated, the officer's report indicates there are not one but a number of signs that indicate visible signs of intoxication. So I cannot agree that there was very little to support that that individual had been overserved.
Might I add, I know I'm only getting to question and speculate here, but the standard is that he was visibly drunk. But once you make that observation, then there has to be a further act of serving that individual. And the officer's testimony, at least on the police reports, did not indicate that those signs of visible intoxication were present at the time he purchased and drank, then consumed alcohol. He may have had his full faculties when he made those orders, and we don't know the progression of his drinking prior to arriving at the tavern. So he may have had many drinks right before entering the establishment, and then completed his order, received his drinks with the full faculties in use, and then consumed and became so inebriated that if he had gone back to the bar, he would not have been served. The only visible intoxication came at the end of the night after he did consume all the alcohol. There was no serving after that point of making that observation.
I understand and appreciate the point you're making. However, I would say that the individual himself, when asked how many beers, he stated a lot. Okay, he could not count the number of beers he had drunk. He had drunk quite a few beers before coming to the tavern. So I think there is evidence to indicate that he may have been intoxicated at the time he was served, based on his own testimony.
But was he visibly intoxicated?
Well, the only thing we have, if we don't have anybody to tell us if he was or wasn't at the time, we do have testimony that he was when the officers showed up.
After he had been served additional and his blood had been able to absorb additional alcohol.
Now, you are making assumptions there.
Well, I mean, I would say we're both sides here seem to be making some assumptions since we don't have a full hearing. Again, we could have a full hearing, in which case the bartender could say, you know, I served him this amount of alcohol, and then there's a timeline where, like you're saying, maybe an hour or two later when the police showed up, we could have testimony the other way. So I agree there's some assumptions on either side. I guess what makes me support the stipulation is the fact that the city prosecutor has had some of these conversations. Now, again, that takes a level of trust in what she's doing, but I can't imagine that she wouldn't be moving forward with the prosecution if it wasn't more obvious.
We have no testimony, either verbally or in writing, that would indicate that he was not drunk at the time he was served. Therefore, we do have testimony in writing that he was drunk afterwards, without any dispute or evidence that he was not drunk at the time he was served. And then I tend to go towards the fact, based on the officer's observations, that he was likely intoxicated at the time he was served. There has been no dispute to that presented to us.
May I address briefly? Okay.
We're discussing this among ourselves right now.
And that's why I've tried to, but that's fine. That's why I asked.
We'll come to that. My concern is I believe the burden of proof is with the prosecution. And there is a question as to whether an intoxicated person was served while intoxicated. And it hasn't changed my mind, but I'm concerned that the burden lies with the prosecution, and the prosecution has declined to make that presentation to us.
No, the prosecution has presented us a proposed stipulation. If we reject the stipulation, then we give the prosecution the chance to present that, and we will evaluate it and make a ruling based upon the case presented.
But the prosecution has agreed to the stipulation, which means that she doesn't want to proceed.
Now you're making an assumption again. She has agreed to the stipulation. That is correct.
Well, that's not an assumption. I mean, that's...
She has agreed to the stipulation.
She wouldn't agree if, in her professional opinion, she wouldn't have agreed to it.
I think we should hear the case. I think there is sufficient reason to hear the case and then make a decision based upon the facts presented or dispute it as they may be.
Any other members want to weigh in on this?
I'll just make one last remark and let it lie, but when you have a restaurant and they serve you one beer, once you consume that beer, you are technically intoxicated. Then, therefore, should never be served a second beer. The standard is visibly intoxicated. So we need to know when he was served, at the time he was being served, in the time he placed his order, what his mannerisms were to indicate he was visibly intoxicated. And we need evidence, and the burden of proof is with the prosecution, to show that he had those mannerisms at the time he was being served.
And I'm willing to give the prosecution the opportunity to do that.
Sure.
Are you prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that the stipulation be rejected as submitted.
We have a second to that motion.
I second it. Mm-hmm.
Will the city clerk poll the authority, please, on the motion as to whether we reject the stipulation?
Authority Member Bradish?
No.
Authority Member Gunya?
Yes.
Authority Member Odell?
No.
Authority Member Cole?
No.
Authority Member Mather?
Yes.
Procedurally now, do we need another motion?
Yes, I need an affirmative motion to approve the stipulation.
I'll move that we approve the stipulation as amended, as discussed, if everyone was okay with the discussed amendment.
It needs to be clarified.
Okay.
We have a second. I'll second the motion. City clerk, poll the authority, please.
Authority Member Bradish?
Yes.
Authority Member Cole?
Yes.
Authority Member Gunya?
No.
Authority Member Mather?
No.
Authority Member Odell?
With reluctance, yes.
According to my count, the motion is approved.
Motion carries 3-2.
Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Next item, number 10B, Rocky Incorporated, doing business as Super Discount Liquors. I believe we have a stipulation in that case also.
Good evening. I'm Clifton Hipsher, and this is Mr. Young.
This is also a consideration of a stipulation. We have 3 exhibits, Exhibits A through C. We'd ask for a motion to receive those into the record.
I'll move that we submit Exhibits A through C.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
So this stipulation as presented to the authority indicates that the licensee, Super Discount Liquors, is stipulating that approximately on March 15th, 2013, at 7:51 p.m., licensee sold a 50-milliliter bottle of Fireball to a patron who appeared to be very intoxicated, heavy odor of alcohol, unsteady on his feet, eyes red and bloodshot. A PBT test was conducted and the results were .267. These facts, as summarized, would constitute a violation of the Littleton Municipal Code 3210F and CRS 1247-901. The licensee does admit to the violations that are set forth by the city. We also reached a stipulation as to the sentence, and we are proposing that a 10-day suspension of the licensee's liquor license with 5 days of actual suspension and 5 days held in abeyance for 1 year from the date of the final order. Since this is a first violation, we would argue that the licensee would be eligible to pay a fine in lieu of the actual suspension. We're asking the authority to review this and approve this tonight.
So basically, a total of 10 days, 5 held in abeyance, and 5 days to be, a fine to be imposed in substitution of 5 days of actual serving the suspension.
That's correct.
This one, I feel there's no reason to object to the stipulation. Welcome anybody else to speak their opinion on that, if you agree or disagree.
I would only ask, is there any prior history or any other aggravating factors we should be considering with this licensee?
There is not any prior history that I am aware of. The aggravating factors, as the city was looking at, were the facts itself. There was video evidence. The man was very intoxicated. Officers contacted him as he was walking out the liquor store door, and the first officer on scene indicated that he was actually drinking from this Fireball liquor bottle. So they contacted him in close proximity to when the sale was conducted, and he was very, very intoxicated.
He was drinking the bottle on the way out of the store?
According to the officer, saw him exit the door, and the door was closing, and he had already lifted the bottle to his lips.
If I may be heard.
I think there's no question this offense did occur, and I think by signing the stipulation, the licensee agrees that the offense did occur and is willing to take 5 days of suspension as a result of that. And I understand that the fine is in lieu, but this is a really egregious case of over-serving of an intoxicated person, and I think that's very obvious, and I think it's very serious. But you are basically saying that you're guilty of having that offense occur.
Well,
and you're willing to stipulate to that effect.
Well, I don't know that we're agreeing to the facts as they've been related. We're agreeing to what is in the stipulation. As far as the video was concerned, I don't think that the city has any video. Apparently, in speaking to Mr. Young, there was a video. The officers were supposed to come back to it, to get it. They never did come back to get it, and in the interim, it was lost. In fact, we had considered taking this to hearing, but because we could not locate the video to say one way or the other, we elected to take the stipulation, or Mr. Young elected to take the stipulation. Now, I don't know, in reading the police report, that I take it that he was drinking the bottle as exiting. I believe when I read it, I did see something that indicated that outside, someone noticed him stumbling in the parking lot. He was going back and forth. I don't think that it's fair to say that he was drinking the bottle as he was walking out the door. He was somewhere in front of the building trying to consume the bottle, but
I don't see how that makes any difference.
Well,
he bought the bottle in there, and he was intoxicated when he bought it, according to the police reports. And that's the issue that I think you're stipulating to.
I would agree. I'm just saying that my recollection of the liquor code is that in a package store, you're not to consume alcohol on the premises of the package store. So to the extent that he was drinking inside the store, that would have been.
Well, I think that's a whole different offense. Drinking within a liquor store is in itself
I just wanted to clarify that because I thought that that was what was being suggested. He was out in front of the store, and I believe a citizen called.
It actually was what was presented by the city. I conducted an extensive conversation with Paul Martins, who was the officer, and that is what he told me. That information did not make it into the police report for whatever reason. The second bit of information that Officer Martins indicated is that they didn't just fail to go pick up the video. I don't believe that there was a lot of cooperation, and the video was then lost. There were numerous attempts to collect that video, according to Officer Martins.
But both the city and the licensee agree that the facts presented indicate that he was sold to when he was intoxicated.
Yes, I mean, I think that time was short enough that we would be, there was no reason to argue about that. And that's not what we're doing. I was just concerned that there was, I wasn't unaware of any evidence that he was drinking while he was on the premises.
Well, I mean, the stipulation doesn't, you're not stipulating to that.
Right.
Well, what action's being taken so that this doesn't happen in the future?
Mr. Young has had TIPS training. He has two full-time employees who have both had TIPS training. He has two part-time employees who had not been trained at this point. The individual who had the violation had only been working there a couple of weeks. He also had a full-time job and had not gone through TIPS training. Since this incident, both the part-time employees have had their TIPS training. Mr. Young previously ran the store himself, but because of the downturn in the economy, he's had to take a day job in order to support the store. Hopefully the economy will pick up. The strip mall that he is located in, I'm sure you're familiar with, is on Littleton Boulevard, and he's on the side facing Littleton Boulevard. All the other stores on that side, that's a King Super Plaza, have closed. There's an H&R Block, which is, as we know, a seasonal or temporary tax store there. And then there's a church, but the other retail facilities have closed, and he's struggling to do his best to keep it open. So he's not there all the time. And there was a 2-week lapse where he had an individual who wasn't fully trained to spot somebody who was intoxicated and realize his responsibility. But that has been corrected. And I do have the certificates if you'd like to see them.
Did you mention that the employee that did this serving is still in the employ of the licensee?
He is still an employee as a part-timer, but as I said, he had not received, in our opinion, sufficient training at the time, which has been corrected. And part of that was because this individual also had a full-time job, and they just couldn't get a class schedule where he would.
This is the employee that said to the police officer that the owner told him, unless they were falling down, go ahead and sell to them. I believe that was in the police report.
Well, obviously we didn't hear that, but I would say that there's a certain amount of interest in an individual because they can also be cited with a crime to essentially CYA, and I believe that that may have been a little what was going on here. But I think the question that was asked to me or to us was what has been done to make sure that this doesn't occur again. And everything that can be done, I think at this point, has been done. If we go ahead and we fire this individual and get another individual, the same steps are going to have to be taken in order to ensure that there are no further violations.
I'm inclined to accept the application, but the fact that a clerk is instructed to sell alcohol to an individual if they're not falling down is cavalier management at best. A liquor license is a serious matter. It is a responsibility, a public trust. And while I'm inclined to accept the application, should I see the same management come before us again, knowing previous cavalier apparent attitude, I think that speaks to, I hate to speak for the authority, but certainly I would view another appearance before this authority.
Well, I would ask Mr. Young to address that because I really don't think that he said anything of that nature. I've known him for a number of years, and I don't believe that he would say anything like that. As I said, he was running the store himself for, I believe, something on the order of 5 years, and there was no problem. So I don't know if that were his attitude, you would assume that he would have been in here several times in the intervening years, and so I would just ask him to address that. Did you tell your employee to serve anybody who wasn't falling down?
I think that he misunderstood what I'm saying, and he's a new worker, and I never tell him that don't shut to people who just I never say that, but probably he's a new worker and kind of afraid when he went to the court or take the report to police. But I don't think I'm going to say that to him, because that will really, really hurt my business for that. And I think he's a new worker, no experience for that, kind of afraid of what he say to the police officer.
Sir, because you've had to take a full-time job to support yourself, does that mean that your liquor store is not making sufficient income for you to?
Yep. When I first bought this liquor store, the economy in 2007, it's still good for my liquor store. But in the last 2 years, it keep going down. So I work full time at electronic technician to support for my liquor store, and I work from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I came to my liquor store, work from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Then I have another work until midnight. So that one.
Is your liquor store profitable?
Well, it don't make profit like before I bought it, but I still try to keep it. I try the best to keep my business.
I think that the issue is he's able to support the employees, and the way you put it, Mr. Chairman, I think that he's supporting himself. The liquor store supports the liquor store, but doesn't give him the income that he would like to have in order for his own living. And certainly he's current with his distributors, et cetera, or you'd hear about that also.
I'm inclined to think that this fine could be a substantial amount of money, but what I'm getting at is it doesn't seem to be very much revenue in this store, so that the fine is either going to be around the minimum, $200 minimum, or slightly over that, which is normally not a very substantial penalty for a violation of the liquor code. But that's always relative, and my concern is this business is showing that it may be in trouble, and a fine on top of the other troubles could be a substantial penalty to this business.
Well, I don't want to minimize the situation, the economic situation, but I don't know if you remember any of my background. I used to work for the Attorney General's office, and I worked for state liquor. And it's been my experience that when a store is in trouble, I don't know if I could think of any examples in Littleton, but when a store is in trouble, you usually start seeing trouble with the distribution chain. They start not paying their distributors, and their distributors start putting them on a cash basis and things like that. And that certainly hasn't happened at this store. So I don't want to minimize. I don't want you to try to jack the fines up or whatever. But I think that the authority has some concerns about the viability of the store. It's just the economic downturn, and anybody who's in business in this climate, I know that my income over the last few years, as opposed to the late 2000s. Has decreased substantially. But I'm still viable, and I believe that Rocky is still viable. I only tell you that to just so that you know his circumstances. And he's very serious about keeping his business. It's not as though he's, gone off and got a job and let the business run itself. He does put in a substantial, after he goes to work, he comes back to his store. And he is very active in supervising. It's just that he had some new employees that he hadn't had a chance to fully train, and you have this violation.
If I could interject briefly, I misspoke earlier. There were prior violations. One was from August of 2007. It was a compliance check serving to a minor. And then the second was February 2009. It looks like there were two violations, serving to a visibly intoxicated person and a compliance check serving to a minor.
And, it's my understanding that one of those, I guess, was from the prior owner when he took over. So it wasn't under his management.
Were those violations found by the authority? Or were those, is that from police reports, or is that from violations found?
I'm actually looking at the cover sheet to their license file. And the transfer of ownership was done in March of 07. And it looks like those violations both happened after the transfer of ownership.
So there were two, and I think the city attorney read three.
Well, there were two, but two of them had, or one of them had, the latest had two parts. Mm-hmm. So in reading the events, it looks like the transfer of ownership occurred March 29th of 2007. On July 11th of 2007, a probable cause hearing was conducted and probable cause was found. The show cause hearing was set for August 8th of 2007. August 8th of 2007, according to these notes, it looks like the violation was found at the show cause hearing. And then the second violation was February 11th of 2009, and that was at the show cause hearing once again, that those two charges, the violation was found.
So I'm looking at the third item listed under B in the stipulation. It says licensee has not had license suspended or revoked or paid a fine in lieu of such actions within the prior 2 years. That is accurate.
That is accurate.
It's been 2 years.
For 2 years.
And it's been 5 years, I believe, close to 5. 4 to 5.
So it's actually been around 6 years since there's been an offense.
And that's one of the...
No, 4 years, Bill.
6 for the first and then 4 for the second.
And I believe that, from my recollection, the priors were in 2008, so it's close to 5. That's one of the points that I was trying to bring out. There's been nothing in the 5 years. He's been managing the place in a responsible manner, and if he were actually telling his employees, serve people if they're not falling down, you would have expected to see him in here.
Mr. Chairman, is there any reason not to accept the stipulation as submitted?
I don't see any. I already stated I'd be inclined to go along with it. I have to state, though, I do not have a high level of confidence that this licensee is not going to be back. I just don't have a warm feeling about that. I think the stipulation requires a stiff enough penalty that I would want to approve it. I don't feel comfortable closing this business down for 5 days, so I'm going to vote for the stipulation.
I would tend to agree.
In that case, I would move that the authority approve the stipulation as stated.
Do we need to fill in the dates before we would approve it?
Do what?
Do we need to approve the dates upon which the
dates when it would be?
The fine would be?
At any point, we can approve the dates. Let's do that before we vote.
What day of the week did the event occur?
Occurred on March 15th. You could give me a second.
Friday.
Okay. Does the city have
on a Friday
proposal?
March 15th was a Friday.
Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So we would be inclined to take 5 days beginning with a Friday, and that would be Friday, Saturday, and then 3 days of the following week, Monday through.
And keep in mind that we need to be looking at least 30 days out so that we have enough time for notification and all
Right.
of those kinds of
I'm just
things.
trying to determine the days of the week, which is what we're usually trying to match up with.
What you're looking at is July 19th, 20th, 21, 22, and 23.
I don't think it.
Okay.
So that's a Friday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yes.
Does the licensee have a proposed set of days?
Well, obviously, it's 5 days, I believe.
5 days, right. So, I mean, would you like to propose 5 days? I mean, we would
prefer that it be on a Monday through Friday, but...
No, Sunday to Thursday. But
I mean, I know I personally would like to see at least one of the days be on the day that it occurred. But I don't want to speak for everyone. But
there's not a rule to that effect.
Right.
That's been our policy.
Right. That's generally what.
And keep in mind, it doesn't need to be consecutive. The city, I didn't get to answer your question, Mr. Cole. The city's recommendation would be that this would be more on weekend times and not necessarily consecutive days due to the aggravation level.
What was that again?
it doesn't have to be consecutive days. So the city's recommendation would be that it would be weekend time. So you could look at, 5 Fridays. You could look at Friday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Friday, any combination of that.
And the licensee, you would prefer weekdays, I'm assuming?
Prefer weekdays, obviously. I told you that they were having issues, with income, not just gratuitously. We understand that it needs to smart, but we also would hope that you would consider that he is essentially in a position where the other stores in this strip mall have gone under, and we would not like to see anything that would push him a little bit closer to the edge. He's employing people in the community. He's keeping that side of the shopping center open. There is an anchor there, but when all the other tenants leave, the anchor tends to leave also. So we would ask that they be during the week.
I propose that we stick to the original plan, beginning with a Friday, which was the day of the offense, and continuing for 5 consecutive business days, which would make it the...
Is the
24th.
24th. Is the store open on Sunday?
No.
No. Make your motion, sir.
He's apparently open on Sunday, yes.
Okay, so Friday through
Tuesday.
Consecutive days, you're saying?
Friday through Tuesday.
Okay.
We do have a motion on the floor. I haven't heard a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Did the clerk get the days? Do you have the days?
July 19th through July 23rd.
Okay, I just want to make sure we were all. Thank you.
Any further comments before we vote? Will the city clerk poll the authority, please?
Authority Member Bradish?
Yes.
Authority Member Gunya?
Yes.
Authority Member Odell?
Yes.
Authority Member Cole?
Yes.
Authority Member Mather?
Yes.
The motion is carried. The stipulation is accepted. Sir, I would wish you the best of luck in continuing your business. I see some challenges for you, but I don't want one of your challenges to be to appear before this authority again, because it's going to be very difficult for you to convince us again that we should go easy on you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and then just come back in so we can get it signed, because I need to have the chairman sign it. Bill, I have some other documents for you to sign. Oh, we're not adjourned yet? Look at me just going away.
I'm sorry, Colleen, I didn't.
Oh, I was just getting ready to leave. That's I'm ready to go.
Before you leave, I've got a couple things for you could consider. When we, no. When we approve new license applicants, we have a police report which often is not complete.
We have a report from our police department based on information that they have been given by CBI.
Which often they do not have the results yet.
Correct, but in both of these cases, I believe they are correct because we've held them for long enough.
No, I'm just wondering if when we approve something, if we don't have the complete.
Well, the approval is always contingent on satisfactory reports from CBI. And the state's not going to issue if they don't have that report.
So our approval is moot if the state...
Not at all. We notify the state as soon as we approve. Excuse me, I'm getting over bronchitis. And then we've had instances where the state hasn't issued for several weeks while they're waiting for the final. Now, I know in both of these cases I've been in contact with the state because we've had to amend some things on the applications, and they're ready to approve, to issue licenses on both of these new licenses as soon as we have approval.
Just in general, whether or not we needed to be concerned about that.
No, because our motion always includes contingent on So there's always a contingency, and the state's not going to issue if they've had any red flags.
But in essence, the state can overrule us.
Well, if the state doesn't issue, then we can't issue, but
Exactly.
but the state's also not going to issue if we decline it, then it's not going to go any further at the state level. So I think there's a good double check system in place.
That's fine. I think that was just a question. I'd also like to request in a future study session or something, some training or some discussion about the issue of the PBT test, whether it's admissible or not. I was kind of thrown by the attorney bringing that up, and I appreciate your response to that. But it sounds like it could still be argued, and if we're going to in the future have to listen to that argument, I'd like to be a little more familiar with it than we are now. So,
could I just ask? My reading of the statute was that it's the solicitation of the PBT. Were this to have gone forward tonight, that would have been my issue with his brief. Was obviously based on the reports, the conversation took place, started inside. My idea is my question was, when did he say, "Will you take a PBT"? But I'm curious.
And how did he say it?
Right. But I'm curious. I think you said you had called around. Are there any other municipalities who have dealt with this? Do we have any?
So there's no case law on it. I did talk to Greenwood Village and their reading of I think initially the attorney for the tavern had a different reading of the statute than we did. But I think when we saw his motion and then Ms. McCarthy's response, everyone was in agreement that the statute prohibits the officer from either obtaining the PBT or soliciting the PBT in the bar. But if they take them out onto the street, if they're in the patrol car, if they're back at the station, that is not in the licensed premises. What they don't want is the officer, walking up to the patron sitting at the table and asking them there. And so I don't think you're going to see this issue again. But the law is that the officer cannot take the PBT in the bar or ask them to take the PBT in the bar. They need to do that outside. And that is the policy of our officers. I'm sorry, Aaron left, but that they would do that outside. So.
Outside the door means exactly that, doesn't it?
Yes, and if you saw Ms. McCarthy's response, she was very clear about the licensed premises is what was on the application. It's the, everything inside the red lines, and the officers know that if they pull out onto the sidewalk, and Greenwood Village has the same policy, they understand that if they, are out on the sidewalk or in the street, that's not the licensed premises.
I thought a PBT, even in a DUI, cannot be used to convict a person of being under the influence. It can only be used as probable cause to take them back to the station and use a more accurate means of detecting it.
I don't know. I would have to defer.
That's correct. Yeah. So the issue of the PBI in this case really was, in my opinion, was pretty much insignificant, because the only thing it could legally be used for was to determine that he had been drinking alcohol. It could not be used to set the limits that he had been drunk or not drunk. Okay. My major issue with this case was we made a major deviation from the guideline provided to us by the City Council without hearing the case. The City Council guideline for a second offense would have been 14 days with 7 days suspension. We threw that totally out the window without hearing the case, and that was my major concern.
I understand.
One other item, if I may. On the neighborhood petition, I didn't bring it up on Rice's, but on the Rice's, he had different ones where there was no name but an address. He had ones, wait a minute. He had ones where he had, it looks like a printed name but a signature. I don't know if our guidelines is clear on that.
I think it is. What he told me was the ones that you're seeing like that is he had asked some of his employees to go out and start, and they did the first couple of days, and he and his wife were not pleased with the way they were being conducted, so he and Nicole took over and finished it. which is why you only see some of those that look like that, because they were, I feel, pretty thorough when they took it over. And so it's not that our instructions are not clear. I don't think maybe his instructions were not clear to his staff.
That's why I just didn't know. I just thought it was worth bringing up, make sure that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that, well done. I'm glad that the process seemed to have worked, and I'm glad that we can offer that. So.
Well, and thank you to the authority for kind of backing us up on that. So I think it's good for the city that our licensees, prospective licensees, have the option. Absolutely.
City attorney has something.
I just wanted to let the authority know that we do have a new city attorney as of last night. Ken Fellman of the law firm Kissinger and Fellman will be the city attorney. And I'm very pleased to let you know that Ms. McCarthy will remain as our prosecutor and I will remain as your legal advisor to the authority. So familiar faces will stay here. And so we're happy to continue to work with you.
Good to hear.
I'm
you.
also pleased to hear that news.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a good decision on the city's part. I'd like to adjourn this meeting unless there's something important that somebody wants to discuss. That being the case, I hereby declare this meeting adjourned.